And welcome to the Dean Obeidallah Show, special Sunday, February 1st edition. And we're here for you are my guest. That's it. You are my guest. There's no other guest. I do this as often as I can during the week because I want to hear from you and I want others to hear what we're going to say. I am all about the grassroots having their voice heard. We should be leading the Democratic Party. We would save this party and this nation. So here's today. The topic today is good news for times that try our souls. I don't have to go through the negative stuff and the bad stuff. You know it. We live it. It's overwhelming. It's toxic. What we've gone through in January, I think arguably may be worse than we went through the entire last year. There were bad times early last year. Remember, Trump signed executive orders every day and and him and Elon Musk was there with the chainsaw. That was rough. This in the last month, from what we've seen, because at that time there was not Donald Trump using the military to kidnap another leader from another country, to the idea of corruption in front of us. We're learning more from the Wall Street Journal today about $500 million from a UAE sheik who gave money to Trump's company. And then, of course, you have what's going on with ICE, which is the use of a personal militia, sending them to Minnesota, killing two people, arresting journalists. The list goes on and on. Don't have to go through that. You all get it. This segment today is almost a self-care segment for all of us. And I wrote an article today that kind of mirrors what I'm going to talk about. And it was therapeutic for me. I'm not kidding. It was therapeutic to focus on the good stuff. There is so much toxicity surrounding us, and we all feel it. And I hope you will put comments in there about what have you seen that's good news, whatever it is. Someone already mentioned Liam. Let me go through here a little history because I love history. I read a lot. I enjoy history. It scares me at times. But what we're going through, and I said at the outset, trying our souls, it reminds me of the famous lines by Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense. And Thomas Paine, in late 1776, the war already began. We're like a year into the war. It's not going well for George Washington and the colonists. It's in fact going really badly. They lost a bunch of battles. They had to flee New York. They're going down to Jersey, where I'm from, and I'm not mocking Jersey. That's where they had to go, was down to southern Jersey. Washington's troops went from 20,000 people to about 5,000 in November of 1776. At this moment, historians say it was the low point in the revolution. If there was going to be a moment that the colonists lost the war, it would have been right there. It could have been later, but right there was the low point. And oddly enough, Thomas Paine, already famous for writing Common Sense, which was advocating to the colonists the only option is independence from Great Britain and getting away from the king. He wrote a new pamphlet titled The American Crisis. And, he wrote these pamphlets were like before Substack. They were like the Substack before Substack, but everyone shared them. They were in the papers. They were shared hand to hand. And since he was famous, people read it. And George Washington famously read it to his troops as well. And what he wrote, and this was to inspire people in this war, not to be down in their fight against Mad King Donald Trump. Oh, I meant King George. But the same idea, my friends. The first line, most people know the first line. He said, "These are the time that try men's souls." We'll update that to all people, but these are the time that try people's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of men and women. And then he went on, and these lines, though, are not as famous, but really instructive. And they resonated with me almost on an emotional level right now. And here's what he wrote. Tyranny like hell is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. And then he put in here this call to action to his fellow colonists to rise up, to not lose hope. And it was the cold winter of November 1776, which also resonates now because I live in New York, where it's been 15 degrees and 20 degrees all week. He wrote here, "Let it be told to the future world that in the depth of winter, when nothing but hope and virtue could survive, that the country, alarmed and at one common danger, came forth to meet and to repulse it." This idea, let the future world hear that it was from this moment in time that people united among the colonies, whatever difference they had, and united to come together in hope and virtue to meet and repulse the tyranny. That's where we are, my friend. And those words, by the way, it wasn't just empty words. He delivered them through his pamphlet and to the troops. And then about a month later, Washington had two big victories down in Trenton area of New Jersey. If you know about the Revolutionary War, I'm from Jersey. There's signs everywhere. Battles fought here. Two big battles where he drove the British out of New Jersey. They didn't come back. They did occupy Manhattan for the entire war after that, but they didn't come back. Now, what's important here, and I'm going to be blunt, it's not, I don't tell you this to gaslight you in a way to make you feel like everything's going to be fine. I can't tell you everything's going to be fine. This story is being written as we sit here. I cannot tell you where it's going to end with Donald Trump. I don't know how our republic is going to end in all of this. I don't know it. Thomas Paine didn't know it. George Washington didn't know it. The colonists didn't know it. They didn't even have a republic. They knew they would be arrested and executed. But what happened? And the war didn't end quickly. These big battles happened in 1776. The war goes on for 7 more years. 7 more years of war. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for them. It's not easy for us. And remember, we've been fighting Trump for 10 years already. Like, we've gone longer than the Revolutionary War. We began fighting this guy in 2016. Here we are 10 years later. At least the Revolutionary War defeated Britain in just 7 years. But we are 10 years into this battle with a little respite when Biden was in there. But I'm slightly making light of it. We've been fighting. He's forever. I mean, he's aging the crap out of all of us. So today, I will say, we are fortunate that we don't have to raise arms and form a military to fight against tyranny and fight for our freedoms. But I'll add, we don't now. I don't know what the future has to hold. The last thing I want to do is make people feel like everything's going to be okay. I don't want to be Pollyannish about this. It's going to be fine. Everyone, big hug fest. I don't know. But I do feel deep down that when we unite as a people, there's so many more of us than them. And that's not speculation. Look at the polling. In the Pew poll that came out on Thursday, Trump is down to 37% approval rating. 37. Strongly approve, he's down to like 22, 23%. Strongly disapprove, those are people like you and me. Angry people. People are going to go out in the midterm, who are going to knock on doors and make phone calls. Want to know what the strongly disapprove number is? Again, strongly approve, 23%. Strongly disapprove, 49%. Half the country is angry at this guy. They're going to come out. We're all going to come out and vote. So there are more than that. And of course, that's what franks out Trump. But here's the good news we've seen. And I think it feeds on this theme that I've so often talked about. Trump doesn't know what it means to be an American. He does not know what it means to be an American. He doesn't know the history of this country. He's never had to struggle a day in his life. Sure, he filed for bankruptcy, but he was still a millionaire. He got millions from his family. He's born into wealth. I think so much of being an American comes from the story of the Revolutionary War, these plucky colonists who rose up against the superpower of the world. They really had no chance to win. There's no reason they should have won this. It really not. And by the end, it was France that made a huge reason that we actually got our freedom. But Trump doesn't know the DNA of our nation that we have been taught from childhood, from first and second grade, that our nation was founded on people rising up against the king, rising up against the oppressor, not bowing down to a king or a mad king, never bowing down to a tyrant. Trump doesn't get that. That's why he's angry all the time. It's because we continue to defy him. The same way King George was mad at the colonists who defied him, who threw tea in the ocean, into the bay, who formed militias, who fired on the British soldiers. But the same way, King George and Donald Trump want the same thing, absolute obedience. And if you have that, if we all got on a knee and said, Donald Trump, you're the greatest president ever, we love you, he'd probably pull ice out of everywhere. He'd be like, I'm beloved. And that's all he would do. I mean, a lot of this is this deep sense of wanting absolute obedience, like every king on Putin wants. It's not going to happen. That's why I say he doesn't get the DNA of this country. So look at the good news we've seen, starting Friday, Saturday to today. Friday, big rallies in Minneapolis, all over the country. You had it. You had the big concert with Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine in Minneapolis, and Bruce Springsteen showed up as a surprise guest and sang his new song, The Streets of Minneapolis. It was a great turnout. If you look at my article I just wrote, you'll see the picture of Tom Morello on the back of his guitar, turned it around, and it said the words, arrest the president. Arrest the president. I wish Democrats in Congress would make that their rallying cry. Impeach. Arrest this guy. He's killing Americans. He's terrorizing Americans. We saw protests over the weekend from San Francisco, which were massive, to New York, to Chicago, to Montana, to Florida. If you read the articles, they were all over the country. One of the ones that I really love was in Chicago. You may have seen the video. Again, it's posted in my new article. You can check it out. It's snowing. People are out there in blinding snow. It's freezing cold. And what are they doing? They're cheering the idea of ICE get out, F ICE. Of course, Mayor Brandon Johnson said to the crowd, "We are black, brown, white, Asian together defending our humanity." And being out there in the cold in this freezing weather, standing up against a tyrant in Donald Trump of all different backgrounds, again, for me, conjured up the colonists, conjured up the Continental Army in December of 1776, where for many it felt like hope was lost. And they persevered on. And then, so a lot of these things are positive vibes, but then we have a concrete thing. And that was a big election victory last night in Texas. And I want people to see the details of it because it can be dismissed. Republicans are going to try to spin it any way they want. This was not a minor loss. The Republicans were fearful this was going to happen in Texas. This was a special Senate election pitting Taylor Remet, Rehmet, versus a Republican. He's a union leader. He's running for state Senate in a district that Donald Trump won by 17 points. You may have seen that. The Republican won by 20 points. So this is a district that Trump wins by 17 in 2024. The Republican, the last time a state Senate Republican won by 20 points. This was not a situation where they ignored it, the Republicans. It's not a situation where the Republican candidate was unknown or unpopular. That's not the case at all. The Republican nominee's name was Lee Wamgas. She was well known in Texas. Why? She's a leading Christian nationalist, a Christian supremacist. She was successful in leading the charge to fill North Texas school boards with these right-wing people who want to turn the Bible into your curriculum. And so she is well known. She's well liked. She was well funded. She had over $700,000 to spend on this campaign. She spent that. You want to know how much the Democrat had? He had $65,000. She outspent him 10-1. And just so it's clear, the state lieutenant governor, who's the Senate president, Dan Patrick, personally was going down there and campaigning, personally talking about it. And Donald Trump, in the last 48 hours of this race, posted three times where there's telling Republicans, you got to come out and vote. Got to get out there and vote. Because they were afraid something was going on, I'm sure, in their own polling, like, hey, this might not be easy. And the Democrat won, and it wasn't even close. That's what's kind of remarkable. The numbers now, we have basically the final numbers. The Democrat won with 53% of the vote. 53% of the vote. In a district, Trump won by 17%. And what did Trump say this afternoon? He was asked about it. He goes, I didn't even know there was an election in Texas. Now, that could be true because if you don't know this, probably about 80% of his posts, if not more now, it might be 100%. He's not writing anymore. It's his staff writing, his team writing. I heard in the beginning that Trump would actually have to approve them. I don't even know. He's a puppet. Trump's a Pinot, a president in name only. He may not know there was an election. He may have known a day ago, but his dementia erased it. But we know there was an election. The Republicans in Texas know there were an election. Republicans around the country understand what's happening. And we'll talk about this another day when we get to more negative stuff. This makes it much more likely that Trump has to cheat and rig the 2020, he's not going to try to rig the 2026 election. But look, this was a huge victory. So look at all this good news. What I'm here for today on this Sunday afternoon is to beg people to take a moment and savor the wins. It's a lot of negativity. If you look at Substack, probably 95% of the articles are about the horrible things we're going through. And it's understandable. I write those too. Don't get me wrong. But few are really about the progress we're making, that people are coming out. They're not bending the knee. They're going out in sub-freezing weather. They're fighting battles like the Continental Army did with George Washington in December 1776. They're doing it now in January and February of 2026. On some level, it's perfect that this is the 250th anniversary of this republic because the same battles are happening. And the win in the Senate thing is the most tangible thing. It's objective indicator. The other things are like vibes. The vibes are really good. People are coming out. We're going to be in March, King's Rally, all that. Here's a special election in Texas. Democrat wins, has no business winning, let alone blowing the Republican out. And even the Republican, she didn't deny it. At least she goes, well, this is a wake-up call for Republicans nationwide. Yep, it is. So that's where we are, my friends. And I post, and I really encourage people, if you get a moment, check my Substack article that I wrote today. You'll see it. I embed video, and it concludes with people in Chicago, and the mayor's there, and it's snowing, and it's cold, and Trump wants people to cower. And not only are they not cowering, they are singing. They are chanting joyfully. And that joyful fighting spirit is what's going to motivate all of us and keep us all going as the battle continues. So look, that's my part of the rant. It's not here for me to chat with, to preach to everyone. It's to start the conversation. And then I want to hear from you. And that's what, if you're joining late, this is You Are My Guest, the segment I do whenever I don't have another guest, because you are the guest. And I want people to say, does any of this make you feel a little more hopeful? Have you been feeling more hopeful because of the protests in the streets in Minnesota, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, all over the place? Is there other positive news? I'm going to go read it right now. You can put it in the chat. I really encourage you, and I'll start reading it. Are you feeling more encouraged? And yeah, there's a lot of negativity, and we're going to focus completely on ensuring this is a full and fair election, that Trump doesn't rig it. I can assure you that's a problem. But right now, take a moment. Is there something good you want to share? Something positive? Are you feeling inspired? And if you're not, so be it. Tell us. I'll do my best to be the needy clown that I am to make you laugh and make you feel better. So let's go back and see some of the comments here from people, and I'll read them. And again, that's the whole idea of the segment. People can hear what's going on, how we do it. So go all the way here. Romaine Voigt says she's a book banner about the woman in Texas. Absolutely. They rewrote the curriculum to make it Christian supremacy. It's unfair to even use the term Christian. This is just the use of a religion for political power. But their religious supremacist agenda, this woman was one of the leaders. She was beloved for it. So she was known. For her to lose it shows where the energy and enthusiasm is. There's still a ton more Republicans in that district, but they didn't come out. They weren't worked up. It was those who opposed the MAGA agenda, who opposed Trump, that came out. So let's see what else is going on here. We've got James Wilson, founding father. Okay, I think I'm missing conversation here. Karen Black says, I think we should start calling them what they are, Nazis. Well, that's up to you. They're pretty close. Karen says they lost the Latino vote. Texas isn't playing. What a great point. If you've seen the polling in the midterm, in 2024, Donald Trump won Latino men, not Latino women, Latino men. Polling shows he has lost that support. And among the women who are Latina, he's lost horribly there. If we can get those people to come out and vote for us affirmatively, we could win the Senate. This is like not just the House. We can win the Senate seats. Control of the Senate would end any judicial confirmations for Donald Trump at all. They would have to shut it. We're going to make them shut it down. Certainly no Supreme Court. Any Supreme Court opening, we're going to keep it open if it's a Republican, I should say. All right, let's continue on here. More points here. Eleni Dougherty said she had a commercial before the election stating that Democrats were putting in millions of dark money to win the election. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but I know she had more money and they were panicking and she got destroyed. Thomas Friedman, yes, full force the polls, but Democrats in Congress have to insist on no federal agents at polling places. Somehow. It's going to take a lot with attorney generals in blue states. We have like 23 Democratic AGs. So let's continue on here with more comments. Michelle Brody says, take the win. Jen says, Orlando in the 40. Okay, I'm not sure. That's about the weather. Megan Newman says, how can they insist on no federal agents at the polls? How can we stop them? Would the police protect us from ICE? Well, keep in mind, this sounds ridiculous to say, there are only 10,000 ICE agents. So if you put one at each polling place, you're going to run out of ICE agents, even CBP, you're going to run out in a really short period of time. One of them doesn't scare anybody. Two of them doesn't scare anybody. The reason they are intimidating is that they're a masked armed gang of 10, 20, 30. You could only put that in so many polling places. So he's not going to have the troops he wants. To do what he really wants, he will have to invoke the Insurrection Act to put the military out there. There's not enough ICE and CBP agents, and Customs and Border Patrol are only empowered under federal law to operate within 100 miles of a border or a port. So there are many places they're not even legally allowed to be operating. Not that Trump cares, but just so you know the law on it. he will have to use the military. If he does not have justification to use the Insurrection Act, there is no way that they have enough agents to scare people. What they will try to do then is scare people by saying, as if they have enough agents. So people who have an accent of any background, not just Latino, they have any kind of accent. If they're off white in color, they might fear going to vote because they fear ICE will kidnap them, because ICE is kidnapping American citizens and holding them. And I just covered on my show, Nasra Ahmed. She's a Somali American, US citizen, Somali. They kept her for 2 days. 2 days, a US citizen. She has no accent. She was raised here. They kept her for 2 days, even though they knew she was a citizen. She got a concussion. So they're doing that on purpose. That's to scare people. That's to terrorize people, because they don't have the numbers to put them all at voting places. So let's continue on here. The Dave Moore, it's true that we're learning we have to fight to keep our democracy, and maybe that's a good thing. Not take good government for granted. Yeah. When this is over, it's not about going back to the status quo. When this is over, it's about re-envisioning an America that actually works for all people and putting legal, statutorily based safeguards to prevent anyone from Trump again, doing what he's doing, because we've learned all the checks and balances in school. We all learned about them like they were some hard and fast rule. They were like suggestions. I mean, I'm not even like the emoluments clause. Okay, you can't take any kind of bribe from a foreign official, but guess what? There's no penalty. So they're like, please don't do this. Please don't. It's not nice if you do this. You got to have penalties, criminal penalties for doing it. That's the only way, though. That's how you change the laws. That's easy. It's an easy fix for Democrats. We get the House and Senate and the White House. We put teeth into the laws. Same thing with the Epstein law. I mean, now we're getting some more documents, but we're missing a lot. There was no penalty, so they can delay it long ago. Okay, let's see. Nancy Warner Mosley says, bravo, Dean. Thank you. The ZJ says the irony, Alex Preddy murder is like the Boston Massacre. That's interesting. I'm not sure if irony is the right, maybe irony. The Boston Massacre is when the British troops fired upon colonists in the Boston area. And if you read about the story, the troops were not told to fire, but they still fired because they got nervous. And famously, John Adams, who was not president then, they were still a colony, actually volunteered to defend the British troops to show everybody that everyone should be entitled to a legal defense. He was sort of standing up to the king, but he got a huge backlash for that. But that is really what happened there. And I'm doing an aside here because I love history. What John Adams did there becomes our second president and the first vice president. That's the basis for the Sixth Amendment, guaranteeing you a right to counsel. That's John Adams manifested that in what he did in representing the British troops who were charged with the murder of colonists, saying you have a right to a trial, even if we think you're a scumbag and a traitor or treasonous, you still have a right to having legal counsel. It's kind of remarkable when you think, let's continue on. Son of Liberty. Yes, all right, let's continue on. Terry, this must continue. Karen Brownfield says, I'm up and down, up today. That's all you can be, Karen. You're being honest. Every day is a challenge with Trump. This should not be happening. Like every day should not be, what did he do now? Oh my God. Because it's not, he tweeted this stuff. We are all past that. I don't read any of this truth social bullshit. It's all about real things that he's doing. Policies changing. Going into Fulton County on Thursday. And everybody gets it now. But at first, the corporate media and pundits were like, wow, he's obsessed with 2020. That was not about the past. That's about the future. We all know it. This again shows you how corporate media and even some political pundits who live in these ivory towers don't get how dangerous Donald Trump is. It's beyond me. It's all trying to get a playbook to cheat. But we're going to talk about cheating in another day. I want to talk about the good things. Are there things, does this make you feel good that Texas win? Is it meaningful? The fact that people are going to the streets in sub-zero, in the snow, to stand up against ICE, against fascism. This might seem like over the top, but I've been saying it for a year, and we're at war. We're at war like the colonists were at war. In both cases, it was a mad king. It was King George, in this case, an aspiring mad king who declared it upon us. And we are fighting the same battle for freedom and self-determination as the people. That's all on the line for us. Those stakes are just as high. This is like the second Revolutionary War. That's on some level, that's what it is. And I hope it remains one that we can defeat it by simply voting. But I can't tell you that's how this ends. It might end other ways. Let's continue on here. Megan Newman, I'm happy there's a forum here. Spouting off helps my outrage. That's why I do this too, Megan. I have a lot of anger. I'm half Sicilian. I get angry a lot. It's what I do. Uh, Karen Black says, Susan, we're referring to Susan, who, Carrie Maxwell says, hi, that Dumpy Pants is a fanboy of Hitler. We know that. Even if Trump is too stupid to read, he has all the internal instincts of all the tyrants and dictators and fascist rulers through time. It is a innate thing. You don't have to teach him this. This is his idea. He should rule. We should all submit. There should be no dissent that he doesn't like. Using the full power of government to stifle dissent to him, you don't have to tell him about anything. That's what he wanted to do in the first term. He just had people around him stopping him. Now we don't. Polly Post, much reform is needed. Intelligent structures and holding politicians accountable. The way to do that is through laws that have penalties. They want to affect people's conduct? Make it clear they will go to jail if they do certain things. You make it clear they will go to jail and put some in jail. It will deter that conduct being repeated. That's how it works. The Jessica R. says, Jasmine Crockett and Joaquin Castro, the Democrat from Texas as well, were able to get Liam Ramos and his dad back home. It's remarkable what they did. Jen Champion says, call them slave patrols, and what they did, called the indigenous kidnappers. They are. Lana says, can we make groups of observers for these federal agents at polling places? Lana, that's exactly what we have to do. We have to have observers. And I'm working on an article now, and we'll have a chat about it this week. We need international election observers at the midterms. Yes, we need international election observers. The same way with Jimmy Carter, we go to other countries. We need them here in the midterms, but we need them in advance. And there's also a way that Congress, including Democrats, can appoint House election observers who can be there for the voting and for the counting. And I'll get into more about that another day, because I'm doing research on that, because I want to give people tangible things that we actually could do. And you can do that. Mary Lou, Dems need stronger messages. They can't just run on anti-GOP. It's true, but I do believe fighting fascism, fighting for our freedoms does move people. But I do believe beyond that, it's got to be fighting for a country, one that we deserve, one that we've earned, not this bullshit oligarchy where the wealthy get wealthier every day and we're told to accept crumbs and less than crumbs. And they do a tax cut for the wealthy so the rich can have an extra summer home, have an extra jet to be in. The grotesqueness of the oligarchy we are living in now. I want to do a Bernie impression. The oligarchy it's enough. We've got to stop it. It's awful. And I talked to Bernie Minton because, Dean, I've told you it's enough is enough. It's got to be enough. All right, let's continue on here. More Liam ordered release. Yes, people know that's a good news. Everyone's rallying around the Liam Ramos thing is good news. On my radio show tomorrow, I'm going to talk about that because I'm learning from you and I learn from people who call my radio show as well. So we'll do a few more because I have to go for a haircut. I know it doesn't look long, but its Zoom setting looks shorter. Minneapolis is more than 100 miles from a border. And it's true that I think GWB is talking about border. If you look up Customs Border Patrol, under federal law, their mandate is within 100 miles of the border or a port and a port of entry. I don't believe it applies to 100 miles from international airports, and I have to check that. That one I'm not sure on because it could be. Let's admit the Democrats did their own part in messing up, says Megan Newman. Yeah, I know. What can you do? Cindy Thomas, what about voting by mail and sending it in early? That is a great practical suggestion for getting around the threat at ICE to make sure people who are from immigrant communities, they have to be U.S. citizens to vote, but if they have any concerns because you have an accent and you're not as white as the White House and you're concerned they're going to harass you voting, it's voting by mail, voting early, getting absentee ballot. And when you think about it, this is part of the motivation of Donald Trump to say only in-person voting. Who would say only in-person voting? It's so that it increases his ability to intimidate voters by calling out the military, by calling out ICE, calling out CBP. Bureau of Prisons has been out there in the streets, whatever. So that is a great suggestion, Cindy. The idea of making sure and getting the message out. We have so much time getting the message way in advance. The states, the blue states and the swing states that don't have complete Republican control, they're not going to be able to get rid of the early voting. Now, it's true we have blue cities in reddish states where they might try to get rid of early voting by mail. But even Republicans know their older voters like to vote by mail. It makes life easier. That's the truth. All right, let's continue on here. We'll do a few more. I'm glad so many people joined on a Sunday afternoon out of the blue. Carrie says Donald Trump stole 10.5 years from us. Carrie's right. Donald Trump stole 10.5 years from us. And I think he stole about at least that of my life expectancy. Anyone feel like you would have lived longer if Trump was not president? Me too. I think he's stolen some years from our life. That's why I look forward to the day that the devil calls him home. All right, let's go. All right, we have a lot of comments here. Wait, I'm way behind. All right, I'm going to the end. I'm going to go backwards for a few because got to wrap up. I really do have a haircut. But thanks everyone for joining here. Judith Walters, far right in England, Italy, Germany, Wales, Australia, Canada, South Africa. Yeah, there is a far right. There's a far right across Europe. Every election is going to be about, do they win? Does the far right come to power in these respective countries? It's kind of remarkable. Beamow, hello Beamow, Beamwow. Jesse Ventura said Minnesota should just become part of Canada. I laugh when I said that, but it's not nuts anymore. What do you think, Dean? Look, it's up to the people of Minnesota, but I don't think the people of Minnesota want to leave America. They want Trump to leave America. You know, it's like when Texas is like, we're going to secede. No. You as people, Republicans, you can go secede, go move to Mexico. We're keeping Texas. I don't think the people in Minnesota who are going the street and risking the cold want to become part of Canada. They want Trump gone. They want MAGA out of America. It's not just abolish ICE, it's abolish MAGA. And the way to do that is politically, because we are dealing with the same right-wing movement that's going on for a long time. Susan Callahan, is it true there's going to be ICE at the Olympics in Italy? Yes, Susan, that's 100% right. The reporting is they're sending ICE there to do some kind of security. I don't know are they going to tackle skiers who they think are undocumented in Italy? Like, I don't know what they're doing, but apparently they're going to be part of the security force for the U.S. athletes. And here's the interesting thing. Giorgia Meloni, who's the Italian prime minister, she is right-wing on certain things. One of her top ministers, because there's a backlash in Italy, they're concerned because they're seeing stories about ICE here. And I'm not kidding you. One of the top ministers in Italy was saying to people, don't worry about the ICE coming here. It's not like it's the SS. And I'm like, when your best argument is that ICE is not actually Gestapo, it's not a big winner. So look, in Italy, they see the world sees what we're going through. The world knows this is not the United States of America that they once knew. We know it. I have to repeat it. You know what's going on. This is not a couple more things. Reginald Goodwin says, are you submitting this live on YouTube? We're not live streaming it, but I will upload the whole thing. And I do in case people have time and they sort of want a podcast and hear this and hear the comments from people. Because me talking in the beginning is just to start the conversation. You and hearing your talk is more important. Lana says, holy shit, my white hair, I'm 41. Yeah, I've had white hair as well for a while. And I'm considerably over 41. Eleni, my father talked about people being too mean to die. Alina Dougherty says that, too mean to die. Okay. Sandra Stefan, 10 years of disgust. Okay, a couple more, and then I got to go. Tara Lex Epstein, all exclamation point. Susan Callahan says the whole Trump administration is going to end up in Argentina anyway, which is kind of perfect. No, it was the boys of Brazil. The Nazis went to Brazil, but they might end up in Argentina. Same idea. They're going to run. Dub says, can Italy stop ICE? I get my sense ICE is not going there to enforce any laws, immigration laws there. What would they be doing there? They're doing security. It makes no sense, but Trump is using ICE as his personal militia to go anywhere in the world. It's his rapid reaction force, and he's using it to terrorize people. So sending it to Italy is just about terrorizing people and trying to scare people. All right, so I'll read one or two more comments. Bridget Sweeney, I'll have some gray hairs. I'll be 50 in 17 days. Happy birthday, almost, Bridget. And Gwenny says, stay off TikTok. They are watching it. Stop the SAVE Act. Look into it, especially women. Not sure what the SAVE Act is. All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning in on this sudden meeting on a Sunday afternoon. I just wanted to see if people would join. It was great. I know people were just watching my buddy Frank Figluzzi right before this. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all the comments. Again, I'll post this on YouTube. And if you don't subscribe to my Substack, I hope you will. It's all free, of course. Just trying to do my best to build a community. We are in this together. And if you want freedom, my friends, if you want democracy, stay active. That's the prescription to fight fascism. So thank you so much for being here. Have a great day. I look forward to chatting with you maybe tomorrow.